46 games down for the Boston Bruins, 36 games left to go. And as it turns out, they have played an even number of games on home ice and on the road, 23 and 23. And the next matchup for the Bruins is against the Ottawa Senators. They will see the Senators twice in a span of 5 days, in Ottawa on Saturday, and then the second of a back-to-back, the first in New Jersey and the second on home ice, and that will be against the Senators. And in between that is a matinee, an MLK Day matinee against Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, and the San Jose Sharks, who I know Hockey East fans will be looking forward to seeing those two players return to TD Garden on Monday. But if you look at the schedule for the Bruins, it again eases up, this week, because you have, the 3 days off in between games and the time to get on the ice at Warrior and get some solid practice time in, which is something the Bruins haven't been able to do for a long time, right? Because if you go back to December, you had that Western Canada trip where the team was gone for 2 weeks. They come back, they play a couple of games before the holiday break. They hop on a plane on the 27th. They head to Columbus, a back-to-back. Then they go on the road, right? So it was just a lot. They hadn't had a lot to time.
I'm exhausted listening to you talk about that.
I'm running out of breath. I might have to do another promo. I won't, though. But yeah, so Judd, in terms of the schedule, Senators, Sharks, Devils, Senators, and then a home game against the Avalanche, 12 games before the 2-week break. So that is what is ahead of the Bruins.
Yes, and we have the opportunity to look at the bigger picture. I think for players, they go game to game. So two things. I think because of the light schedule, it gives the opportunity for the Bruins, and this is some of the things that some of the players have talked about. Not only can you rest, but you can practice and you can zero in on that next opponent. And that's going to be the Ottawa Senators. That team has a lot of skill. I think the question mark for them is Linus Ullmark has been out of the lineup. He's apparently dealing with a back injury. So Ottawa has to find a way. And they went through a lengthy road trip. They were on the road for a while the building hosted the World Junior Championships. So now they're back home. They have an opportunity to try and recoup. But I think for the Bruins, it gives them a chance to zero in on that opponent, which helps them. And then you come back next week, you're going to see a team you don't have a rivalry with, a team that's not going to make the playoffs in the San Jose Sharks. You cannot get lulled into an idea that could be a trap game. They've been very competitive this year, and they've got a lot of good young talent. That'll take place on Monday. Then it starts to really pick up. The Devils have a ton of speed and skill. Yeah. They fortified their back end. They've got a new goalie in Jacob Markstrom, and they look to be in the playoff mix under their new head coach, Sheldon Keefe. Then you got Ottawa again, second game of a back-to-back, and I haven't looked to see if the Senators are playing the night before or if they're sitting and waiting for the Bruins in Boston. Oh, and then you finish the week with Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar. Go get them.
Yeah, no big deal. And that's a team that you beat in Colorado, and I'm sure they'll have a little bee in their bonnet. They
have two new goalies since the Bruins saw them last. That's pretty rare. They changed out their entire goaltending tandem.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. And so speaking of goaltending, I mean, you figure Joonas Korpisalo is going to get some looks, right? I mean, you sort of projected, and we were talking about it, maybe the game against San Jose, in one of those two games, probably against his former team in the Senators in the second of a back-to-back.
So I think if you had mapped this out before the start of the season and just looked at this, because Ottawa's a division foe, that's Swayman. I think because of the position that the Bruins are currently in at this point, and because that's a division game, it's definitely going to be Swayman. Then the question is, well, how do you want to handle San Jose? I think if you looked at this at the beginning of the season, that would probably be Joonas Korpisalo. But I don't know if that's a given that's going to be Korpisalo, because you're going to split the two goalies. Don't know who it's going to be. The Devils are not a divisional opponent. So do you want to give Korpisalo that opportunity on the road and leave Swayman for home ice? Or make it Swayman on the front end and, hey, Joonas, you get an opportunity to face off against your old team. So I think that's a decision that we're going to have to watch. And then there's no question Swayman's going to get the start against the Colorado Avalanche. And then as you keep going, you got 2 days off against Buffalo. That's Swayman. And then it's going to be Hellebuck against Swayman 2 nights at that point at the end of January against the Winnipeg Jets. So you're going to probably see a lot of Swayman and maybe a little bit more than you expected at this point of the season.
Yeah, and again, we talked about, before the season started, how many games did Jeremy Swayman start? And I think the sweet spot we all sort of landed on, for the most part, was 55 games. I think he's going to hit 60. I mean, he got 36 games left in the year.
He's already at 33 games. He's played in 33 of the first 46. And that's, I know that, typically in the past, goalie Bob would want Tuukka Rask to play, and even before that, I think the ideal number is probably around 55. I think you're probably right. But you're in a different situation at this point because points are so valuable. And maybe, also the schedule's a little bit different. In the past, you weren't dealing with a Four Nations tournament. It's been a while since the league is shut down for the Olympics. So that also changes out how you map out your goaltending.
Yep. So that is going to be a storyline to watch as we get closer to the 2-week break and throughout the season. And man, things happen fast, right? I mean, you got that break, you come out of the break, and then you got 25 games left in the year. The trade deadline's right around the corner. I mean, this is the time of year. They call it the dog days, but when you're at a playoff race like this, they ain't no dog days. Every game is meaningful. Every game is important. And so that's what's facing the Bruins right now.